Hello, my name is Hans George Campbell. Welcome to part 2 of my Windows XP Windows Vista PC computer build. Alright, in part 2 of this series, I'm going to install the Seasonic Power Supply into this Antec 300 case, and I'm also going to install these 4 Seagate hard drives into that case. Seasonic makes the best power supplies for PCs, and so whenever I do a computer build for myself or for my customers, I always choose Seasonic power supplies. They are the best power supplies for a PC build. They're a little bit more expensive than the other name brand power supplies, but you get what you pay for. Okay. As far as mechanical hard drives, Seagate makes the best mechanical hard drives. And I learned this years ago when I worked for a company in Beaverton, Oregon, right here in Beaverton. And I was an engineer's assistant. And what we did, we designed and manufactured the spindle motors for all the different hard drive manufacturers, including Seagate. And Seagate was the only company that insisted that we use nothing but the highest quality parts in their hard drives. None of the other hard drive manufacturers were like this. In fact, they wanted us to use the lowest quality parts that we could get, as long as the hard drives worked and they could sell them and make a profit. That's all they cared about. But not Seagate. Seagate demanded that we use nothing but the highest quality parts in their hard drives. And this is how I found out that Seagate made or makes the best mechanical hard drives. They really do. Now, you're probably wondering, well, Hans, why don't you use an SSD in your Windows XP, Windows Vista computer? Well, because only dumbasses, that's right, dumbasses, use an SSD or install an SSD in their legacy PC build. Okay? Do not use or install an SSD in a DOS computer, a Windows 98 computer, or a Windows XP computer. And even Windows Vista. Do not use an SSD with Windows Vista 32-bit. Windows Vista did not start supporting SSDs until 64-bit and Service Pack 3. The first Windows that natively supported SSDs was Windows 7. Windows 7 was the first Windows to natively support SSD. So if you're building a Windows XP computer like this, you want to use a mechanical hard drive. Okay, remember the time period of Windows XP, which is 2001 to 2014. Okay, mainly 2001 to 2010. Okay, and for the most part, we were still using mechanical hard drives during this time period. Another thing, the manufacturers of these drives, they want to push the consumer toward SSD because SSD costs a lot less to produce. They're a lot cheaper to make, and they have a much higher profit margin. And that's all these companies care about. They care about making the money. They don't care about you. Fuck you as a customer. Oh yeah, I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you like it is because I worked in the industry for so long. They don't care about the customer. They care about that bottom line. They care about making that money. Okay? So of course they want to push you away from mechanical hard drives because they're much higher quality. It costs more. These cost more to make. Okay? And they have a much lower profit margin. So of course, the hard drive manufacturers, they want to push you away from these drives and push you toward that SSD garbage. Okay? Yes, garbage. The average life expectancy for an SSD is between 1.5 to 5 years. That's it. With most of them lasting between 3 and 4 years before they start going bad. The NAND memory starts malfunctioning. It starts going bad. And this will happen much more quickly if you are stupid enough to install an SSD in a Windows 98 or a Windows XP computer. It will happen much faster because these older operating systems, they defragment the hard drive by default, whether you want it to or not. I mean, yeah, you could turn that feature off, but Windows will turn it back on. That's just the nature of the older version of Windows. The older version of Windows love to defragment that hard drive. Okay? So the first time the older version, like Windows 98 or Windows XP, defragments your SSD, you might as well take that SSD and throw it in the garbage because the drive just got ruined. You never defragment an SSD. That's a really good way to mess up that drive, to fuck up that drive. And that's another reason why you don't want to install an SSD in your legacy PC. You want to go with good quality mechanical hard drives like a Seagate. Okay? Just wanted to get that out of the way because I notice a lot of you dumbasses, yes, dumbasses, installing SSDs in your legacy PC builds. Don't do that. Okay? Don't do it. Windows 98, Windows XP, and Windows Vista 32-bit, they are not set up, they're not designed, they're not programmed to handle SSDs. Okay, so just don't do it. Take it from me, I have been building computers since the early 80s. Okay? I was building computers. I was working with computers before Linus of Linus Tech Tips was even born. So, who are you going to listen to? Who are you going to believe? Who are you going to think knows what they're talking about when it comes to building PCs? You guessed it. It's going to be the person that's been doing it since the early 80s. The very first two PCs I ever built were based on the Intel 8088 processor, which is an 8-bit Intel processor. That's right. That's how long I've been building PCs. So listen to what I tell you. I know what I'm talking about. Okay. All right. I have already installed the SATA Power Switcher. And what this is good for, what it's used for, is you can turn your mechanical hard drives on and off. Okay? So, right here, I have, these hard drives here, they're 250 gigabyte hard drives. I will install Windows XP Professional 32-bit on this hard drive. And I will install Windows Vista Ultimate 32-bit on this hard drive. And using the SATA Power Switcher, I'll be able to turn these drives on and off. So when I want to boot up into Windows XP, I turn the Windows Vista hard drive off. Turn the Windows XP hard drive on. Okay, that's how that works. When I want to boot into Windows Vista, I turn the Windows XP hard drive off and turn on the Windows Vista hard drive. Okay, and you're probably wondering, okay, Hans, why do you want to use Windows Vista? I can understand, you wanting to build a Windows XP computer, because Windows XP is the #1 selling, most popular version of Windows of all time. I mean, so many people today are still using Windows XP, including the United States military. Oh yeah, you heard that right. The U.S. military is still using Windows Vista. That's right, and many companies are still using, not Windows Vista, Windows XP. Many companies are still using Windows XP as well. It's a very popular version of Windows even today. So you probably wonder, okay, well, Hans, why are you even messing around with Windows Vista? Well, Windows Vista happens to be the most beautiful version of Windows. Okay? It is the most beautiful version of Windows. And also, a lot of the games from this time period, 2001 to 2014, right? They run a little bit better on DirectX 10. Okay? Windows XP supports DirectX 9. Windows Vista supports DirectX 10. So that's another reason for having a Windows Vista hard drive. And also, I want to see, okay, what kind of productivity software will run on Windows Vista, because so many people back then complained about, software incompatibility and all this stupid nonsense because they didn't know what the hell they were doing. Okay, and I do. So I want to test like Microsoft Office, Thumbs Plus, Cool Edit Pro, Adobe Acrobat, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Premiere, and plus a lot of the games from the time period that utilized DirectX 10. I want to see if how all of this software works on Windows Vista. Because remember, I'm installing the 32-bit version, not the 64-bit version. And I suspect that most people back in the day, they installed Windows Vista 64-bit. And that is where their software incompatibilities, that's why they were getting so many software incompatibility issues and problems. Because a lot of the software from that time period was mostly 32-bit, 16-bit, and 32-bit. Okay, so yeah. So I'm installing Windows XP Professional 32-bit onto this hard drive, and Windows Vista Ultimate, also 32-bit, onto this hard drive. And I will be able to turn these hard drives on and off, depending which Windows I want to use. Now, these are also Seagate hard drives. These are huge 1 terabyte hard drives. And I will also be able to turn these on and off. And what these are going to be used for is for backing up my YouTube videos. Both the raw files and the completed rendered videos. I back up my YouTube videos on Blu-ray discs. Blu-ray discs last for at least 100 years, so they're perfect for archival use, for backing up your YouTube videos. Don't use DVD, use Blu-ray discs. Okay? But I also like to back up my YouTube videos on mechanical hard drives like this. And you may be thinking, well, 1 terabyte is not very big. Well, yeah, it is. I have never filled up a 1 terabyte drive, ever. I've got a 1 terabyte drive installed in my room, and it's just now about 76% full. And that's with all my YouTube videos on it. Yeah, 1 terabyte is a huge frickin' hard drive. And these are 2 1 terabyte drives. So that's 2 terabytes of hard drive space. And this case here supports 6 hard drives. So I'll put the 2 Windows hard drives up on top, put these 2 next, and then in the future I can add 2 terabyte or 4 terabyte hard drives right here if I need more space for backing up and archiving my YouTube channel videos. So yeah. Anyway, let's get started on the build. All right, let's get going here. Yeah, the Antic 300 case is one of the best cases for a legacy PC build. It was the first case, or one of the first cases, to have the power supply on the bottom of the case. In fact, Antic was the first company that actually started doing that, and all the other companies followed suit. The other companies copied Antic, but Antic was the first company to offer the power supply on the bottom of the case. And this was one of the first cases to offer that feature. It is a perfect case for a legacy PC build. It really is. Perfect case. All right. So we'll take off the panels. I'm going to put it down here. It should be fine like that. Let me take off the other panel. Okay. Alrighty, this hinges out too. Okay. And we'll put it right there. Alright, so let's put the power supply in. Get these put here. Yeah, put them right there. Okay, let me get my power supply. I love these Seasonic Power Supplies. This is a 550, I think. A plus gold. I think it's a 550. Yeah. 550 is plenty of power. Plenty of power for this build. So, this is going to go like, well, come on, get in there. Oh, come on, get in there. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay, so fans pointing up. Okay. And let me get some screws to put in there. I think these are the ones I put in there before. I think. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah. I think these are the ones I put in before. I'm using a standard number 2 Phillips screwdriver. Now, a standard number 2 has a lot of torque. So, you know, you don't want to over tighten these screws. You want to just snug them. You don't want to over tighten them. Okay. And have them loose. Do not tighten them up until all the screws are in there. That allows the power supply to seat itself. Okay. Allows the power supply to seat itself. And once that happens, then you can tighten up the bolts. I want to pull this like this. Yeah. Yeah, don't tighten any of the bolts so you get them all in. You learn that when you have done assembly for as long as I have. You learn that. So now, once they're all in, go ahead and start tightening the bolts. And remember, just snug it. Do not over tighten. There's no reason for over tightening this. Just snug. Okay. Alrighty. Oh yeah. Okay. It may not feel like it, but yeah, when you're snugging, you're actually applying a lot of force to those bolts. This is a high torque screwdriver. Okay, so I got that power supply installed in there. The next thing I'm going to need to do is to mount the hard drives. So these are all SATA hard drives. Okay, so this one will go up on top. I think I might want to remove the front of the case. Yeah. You got to be real careful with these clips that you don't break them. Okay, be real careful with these clips. Now, there is like a dust filter right here. I might actually remove that because it limits the airflow. And I take my computers out once a year, usually the first week in fall and the first week in spring. I take my computers out here at the shop, turn on my air compressor, and blow out all the dust. Only lazy people, you know, insist on these dust filters, and they don't really help. You know, they don't really keep the dust out of the computer. They really don't. In fact, they restrict the airflow. So I'm probably going to wind up taking out this mesh out of here. I'm not talking about this part here. I'm going to leave that in there, you know. I'm talking about this. It's like a real, like a tiny plastic, like screen that's in here. I don't know. I might actually take that, or I might leave it. You know, we'll see. Okay, so I'm going to put this there. Okay, so and I'm mounting my hard drives. Let me see, where am I at? Okay, okay. There it is. Okay. Are these? These are fine thread. Okay, so I'm going to need to get my coarse thread screws. Yeah. I'm just going to mount the first one to show you guys how I do it. And then I'm going to turn the camera off and mount the other three, and then I'll come back. Because, you know, this way you guys don't have to watch me mount, you know, all these hard drives in here. Okay, so, got that bolt. How you like to get them? Okay. I got that bolt. That bolt. Yeah, that bolt. Okay, I want to make sure these are all the same size. You don't want them too long because that could damage the circuit board. If they're too long, it could actually push on the circuit board and damage it. So you'll make sure that they're about the same size and of the right height. So also, I like them where they're round on the end, not tapered on the end. I don't like the self-tapping screws. So, yeah, I want them round on the end. And those are getting hard to find. Most of them are tapered on the end. Yeah, most of them are tapered. Okay, there's another round one. And also, I don't want them too long. So, okay. Come on, Mr. Campbell. Okay, let's take a look at these. Make sure they're not too long. Okay, one more, and that should be perfect. Alrighty. There's one. Okay. Yep. The same height, and they're not too long, so that's good. I had to use my magnifying goggles to make sure they're the right thread, and yeah, not too long. So, put this in here. And again, don't tighten any of the bolts so you get them all in. That allows the drive to seat itself. And like I said, I'm only going to do one, and I'll do the rest of them off camera. So yeah, I'll do the rest of them off camera. And then when I come back, I'll talk a little bit more about what I'm doing. Alrighty. So, alrighty. Okay, so the Windows XP hard drive is installed. I'll install the Windows Vista hard drive here. I'll install backup hard drive 1 here and backup hard drive 2 here. And I'll buy 2 more, like 2 terabyte Seagate hard drives. And they'll be, backup hard drive 3 will be mounted here. Backup hard drive 4 will be mounted here. Now, 2 of the hard drives I'm going to have on all the time. But, like, okay, the 1 terabyte ones, I'll most likely have these on all the time. They won't be, eventually I'll unhook them from the SATA Power Switcher and just attach the 2 terabyte hard drives or 4 terabyte hard drives up to the SATA Power Switcher. So I can turn these on and off. Like when I'm not, copying files over or copying files from the hard drives, there's no sense in having these running all the time while the computer's on. I like to be able to turn these off, turn the power off to them, so that, save wear and tear on these archival hard drives. Now these 2 are also archival hard drives. I don't mind leaving them on all the time, because Seagate hard drives, they last a long time. They really do, especially when you have 2 big 120 millimeter fans blowing air, constantly blowing air across the surface of those hard drives to keep them nice and cool, to keep them running really nice and cool. Anyway, I'll be back after I finish installing the other 3 Seagate hard drives. Alright, I got the 4 Seagate hard drives mounted in the case. The first one's a 250 gigabyte Seagate. That one will have Windows XP Professional 32-bit. Second hard drive is a 250 gigabyte Seagate hard drive. It will have Windows Vista Ultimate 32-bit. These hard drives are 1 terabyte each. They're Seagates, so that's 2 terabytes of storage. Okay, and they will be used for backing up my YouTube videos and the levels that I design and create for PC games. Yes, I do work with PC software manufacturers, software publishing houses. You'd be surprised how much content I have created for PC software that does not have my name on it. But yet I helped create a lot of the maps and a lot of the stuff that's in a lot of these games. Right now I'm working on a new map for GZ Doom. The name of the map is HGC City Warzone. It is twice as large as my previous HGC City map. HGC City Warzone will take about 2 hours to complete and get 100% on everything. When I'm finished with the map, which should be later this year, I should have it done just in time for Halloween. I do one Doom map per year, and I have people all over the world that anxiously, wait for each one of my maps to come out because they download them, they play them, they love my maps. Anyway, HGC City Warzone will be the best city map ever created for Doom. So stay tuned for this wonderful content coming out later on this year for GZ Doom. But yeah, I got the hard drive mounted in here. Power supply is mounted. I've got the SATA Power Switcher hooked up to all 4 of the drives. And then I have the power coming from the power supply going into the SATA Power Switcher so that it provides power to these hard drives. And then when I want to turn a hard drive on, right? Okay, I just basically, let's say I want to turn on my Windows XP hard drive. I just push that switch in and it turns that hard drive on. And if I want to, access one of my archival hard drives, I just turn their switch on, their hard drives on. If I want to load up Windows Vista, I turn off my Windows XP hard drive and turn on my Windows Vista hard drive and reboot the computer. Yeah, both Windows XP and Windows Vista will have access to my archival hard drives. And like I said before, eventually I'm going to have 2 more Seagate hard drives mounted down here for backing up my YouTube videos and my other important files. That's it for part 2 of this video. Stay tuned for part 3, which is coming up real soon. In part 3, I'm going to install a Pioneer DVD drive. It'll be an IDE drive because you have to have IDE in order to have CD audio coming out to plug into your Sound Blaster card. Okay. And this motherboard has an IDE connector. I'm also going to mount a Pioneer Blu-ray drive because, like I said, I also back up my YouTube videos. This includes the RAW files and my important files over to Blu-ray discs. Blu-ray discs usually last for at least 100 years, so they're perfect for archival purposes, for backing up your YouTube videos or any of your other important files. They're perfect for that. So yeah, and I choose Pioneer because Pioneer basically invented the Laserdisc technology. A lot of people will argue with me and they'll say, no, someone else invented it and then Pioneer just decided to promote it. No, that's not true. Pioneer actually invented the Laserdisc technology. Okay? And they brought out their 12-inch Laserdiscs. I'm sure you old-timers remember those, the 12-inch Laserdiscs. And then they shrank it down to 5-inch discs, which we use today. So Pioneer, they know the laser, the optical drive technology better than anyone else. And so whenever I need an optical drive, I always choose Pioneer. Always. Just like whenever I need a mechanical hard drive, I always choose Seagate, not Western Digital. Western Digital is garbage. Okay? Seagate's very high quality. And that's what I choose. In the same sense, whenever I need a power supply, I always choose Seasonic. They make the best PC power supplies. They really do. And when I need a case for a legacy PC build, one of the cases I always choose is the Antec 300. Not the 302. That's garbage. You want the Antec 300. That's the model number that you want. Okay? A lot of your newer cases, I don't know why they did it. Probably for cable management or whatever. They took the hard drive cage and they turned it 90 degrees like this, so that you slide your hard drives in like this. That's stupid. Because then this part is over here and it blocks the air coming from the fans. The fans can no longer blow air over the mechanical hard drives to keep them nice and cool. So I do not recommend using a case that's made like that. You want a case where the hard drive cage is like this, or the hard drives slide in like this. The fans here, they blow air across those hard drives to keep them nice and cool. That's why the Antec 300 is one of my favorite cases. It's a perfect case for a legacy PC build. Okay? So yeah, in the next video I'm going to be installing the two Pioneer optical drives. And I'm going to install beautiful GIM RGB fans. Yes, this legacy PC will have RGB fans. Okay? Oh yeah. I love that RGB bling. And that's all coming up in part 3. In part 4, I'm going to install the motherboard and hook up all the cables. And I'm going to plug in my beautiful graphics card, the GTX 750 for the Win edition. That is the fastest, most powerful graphics card. The best graphics card that you can use in a Windows XP, a Windows Vista build. Okay, that graphics card has drivers for both Windows XP and Windows Vista. It's a very strong card, very powerful card. It has 2 gigabytes of video memory, which is perfect for Windows Vista games. Okay. And of course I'm going to be installing my Sound Blaster Live card. Okay. And I'll put the whole computer together. And then in part 5, I'm going to have Windows XP and Windows XP already installed on the hard drive, and all the software that I use with Windows XP. And I'm going to show you guys my Windows XP setup, and including all the productivity software that I use and all the games that I like to play. And I will be doing complete playthroughs of all these wonderful Windows XP games. So stay tuned for that content. Okay. And then in part 6 of this series, I'm going to show you what I have, my Windows Vista setup, the productivity software that I use with Windows Vista, including all the games that run beautifully, or should run beautifully, on Windows Vista. Okay? Oh yeah. Now in part 7, I just got a really nice video capture board for this computer. And I'm basically going to do an unboxing and a review of that video capture board. And then I'll plug it into this computer and set it all up and show you, how that board works. It's one of the best video capture boards from the Windows XP, Windows Vista time period. It was better, and even though the card is over 10 years, over 10 years old now, it actually still does a better capturing job than a lot of today's modern video capture boards. Oh yeah, it's a really nice board. And so I'm going to show you that board in part 7 of this series of videos. Anyway, that's it for this video. Stay tuned for part 3, which will be coming up real soon. My name is Hans Stewart Campbell, and until next time.